Hey everyone, and welcome to my presentation for MS539 Programming Concepts at the University of Advancing Technology. This is assignment number 5, and for this assignment I had to demonstrate basically base classes, inherited classes, and some encapsulation. So you write a base class, 2 inherited classes, and encapsulate them. Doing this with the Forms app is a little bit different than I would do with a console app, but I think it was a success. I actually used this as an example for a discussion in the same class. So let's get to the code really fast here and take a look at it. Okay, so I made a Forms app. Here it is. It's simple. We have 3 buttons that are going to control the different classes. The Orc class is going to be the base class. Orc Wizard and Orc Hero are the inherited classes, and I have a button that says quit, and we have a text box here which will output some information depending on the class or inherited class that you pick. So let's take a look here. So this one went good. I thought it was going to take me about 2 hours just to test and everything, and it fell right in with that. So let's get right into it. So I made a base class. I call it Orc, and what it is basically a monster for an adventure game. He's the base class of the species, basically. So he's like your typical orc, which is going to be your grunting guy with a club. Okay. So when you inherit things, when you have inherited classes, you can inherit from a base class, and we'll get to that in a second. And this will all tie in together in a minute, so just bear with me. In this class, I make 2 public strings, one called greeting and one called weapon. I make them public because I want to be able to share those 2 strings with the inherited classes. Then I have private integers of health and damage, which I'm going to keep separate from the inherited classes because I don't want those to ever change, basically, from anything that the class Orc has. Okay, and my bird's being a little noisy. I apologize for that. He gets like that when I start talking. So, moving on. In this class, we have a function, a public function that's a string, and all it's doing is returning a greeting. Now, I could have made this a property, but I didn't because I was kind of pressed for time, and I figured this would work just as well. With properties, you have a getter and a setter. Basically, the getter is going to return a value. The setter is going to be what you're going to return. A little bit of a different concept when it comes to like C++ or C, but if you can understand that basically a property is going to be something that you can manipulate inside the class, like give it a value or something like that, you're one step closer to understanding it. By getting something, you're actually getting the information from that property, and by setting it, you're actually setting what's inside that property so you can get it, if that makes sense. Okay, just wanted to let you know that I knew how that is. So in this class, we make a constructor, and in the constructor, we set a couple of things up. We use the weapon string, and we make that equal to club. So the standard orc guy is going to have a club, and we set its greeting to a standard greeting. And this is going to say, you see a stalwart orc standing spelled before wrong, before you, and it is wielding a, and then we concatenate that with the weapon string. So it'll say club. Okay, so that's how you know you're a normal orc. Now we have Phoenix making a lot of noise. I'm sorry about that. Phoenix is my bird, by the way. And no, I'm not from Arizona. And no, it's not. He's not named after the city. He's actually named after my call sign when I was flying airplanes. So, just to let you guys know that. Anyway, now here's the thing. So we have our first inherited class, and how it works is you make a class, you give it a name, and then you use the colon and then the name of the base class. So it's basically saying this class is going to inherit from this class or that class. Now, the only thing I do is I make a constructor for this new class called Orc Wizard. So he's going to be different. And what I do is I change what's in the weapon and greeting strings. Because this is a class that inherits from Orc, it will inherit weapon and greeting, which is these two strings, which is these two strings in this public Orc, right? But I change it. I change it to staff because wizards don't really carry clubs, they carry staffs. And we have to make him a wizard, so we say he's a gnarly Orc wizard. So we change that. Now that I would consider to be polymorphism, and I think that's probably a little bit outside the scope of this, but what's weird is with me, when I do inheritance, I'm automatically going to polymorph it because that's really what I want to do with an inherited class, more than likely. And Phoenix agrees, don't you, Phoenix? Okay, so then we make another inherited class. We call him Orc Hero, and he's kind of like your supercharged Orc. And we do the same thing. We just make a constructor for this class, and we inherit the weapon and greeting string from the Orc class, but we change it to sword and shield, and then we give him a greeting that says, something different. And then we attach two buttons, 1, 2, and 3, which is that, and then we have a exit button. So pretty simple. So let's run through it really fast. Okay, here it is. The program's running. So Orc button is your base class. Orc Wizard is an inherited class. Orc Hero is another inherited class, and the quit button is going to do just that. So if everything works right when I push this button, you will see a message in this text box, and that depends on the class or the inherited class and what it's doing. So let's click on Orc, which is the base class, and it says just what we thought it would say in the constructor. You see a stalwart Orc holding Orc standing before you, and it is wielding a club, and that is exactly what the constructor does for the base class. Okay. So let's do our first inherited class, Orc Wizard. So it changed. You see a gnarly Orc Wizard standing before you. It is wielding a staff, and I spelled before wrong, and I will correct that before I upload it. Oh boy, how embarrassing. Okay, so this works because even though we're just calling a new constructor, we're still using the strings from the base class, right? But we're modifying it to say something else. Even though we're still using the strings from the base class, because we're inheriting it, we can also change that because this is a different class, so it's a different instantiation of an object, right? So we can change that, and that's called polymorphism. And like I said, it kind of goes hand in hand. So that's what happens there. And of course with Orc Hero, again, you see a huge Orc Hero, and he's got a sword and shield, so that worked too. So the two inherited classes are inheriting from the Orc class, but it is changing what's going on. And to prove that, you've seen it in the code. So it all works. It's great. It is definitely inheriting from the Orc class, and it's doing something with it called polymorphism. But you didn't say that I couldn't do that. So with that, I will close this conversation, and I hope I get a good grade, guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.